One of the greatest dangers in Christian life isn't rebellion, it's forgetfulness. See, after God miraculously stopped the Jordan River and brought Israel safely into the Promised Land, he immediately told Joshua to do something pretty strange. Pick up 12 stones, not because God needed a reminder, but because people would. God knew future generations would eventually ask, what do these stones mean? And when they did, parents could tell the story of God's faithfulness. The miracle happened in a moment. The testimony was meant to last for generations. God wasn't just concerned about getting Israel into the Promised Land. He was concerned about making sure they never forgot how they got there. So what's amazing here is where the stones came from. They wasn't from the riverbank or not somewhere convenient. They came from the middle of the Jordan, the very place where God made a way. Now think about that. The place that should have been an obstacle became evidence. The place that should have stopped them became part of their testimony. Many of us want to forget our difficult seasons, but often the places where God showed up the strongest become the greatest reminders of his faithfulness. Sometimes our deepest struggle becomes our strongest testimony. So here's something many of us miss. The Jordan was at flood stage. This wasn't a shallow creek. This was the worst possible time to cross. Yet God didn't wait for conditions to improve. He demonstrated his power in impossible circumstances. And before the water stopped, the priest carrying the ark had to step into the river first. Obedience came before the miracle. Many times we're waiting for God to move before we obey. But throughout Scripture, God often asks for obedience first. Faith isn't believing after you see. Faith is stepping when God speaks. The greatest connection in this story points directly to Jesus. Joshua built a memorial of stone and told Israel to remember. Jesus took bread and a cup and said, "Do this in remembrance of me." The stones reminded Israel that God brought them through the Jordan. Communion reminds us that Christ brought us through sin, death, and judgment. Both memorials answer the same question. What did God do for us? Never lose sight of God's goodness and faithfulness. Remembering yesterday's faithfulness gives us courage for today's challenges and confidence for tomorrow's battles. Hope that blessed you, and I'll see you soon.